Welcome to the Hangin Banners podcast with your hosts, Tyler Witt.
How about this block here by Tyler Witt? You're going to see him get out in front, and he's going to get a key block that springs this play.
Jack Coachman.
And here he is, having the time of his life.
And Ryan Sartori.
Maybe short, but he's thick.
That's thick with two C's at the end.
Hey, welcome back. It's episode 26 of the Hangin Banners podcast. I'm Ryan Sartori with Jack Coachman and Tyler Witt, and we're back yet again. Boys, I got to let you know something before we start. I'm about 4 old fashions deep.
That's a lot.
Nice.
Well, how recently, though? How recent? Like within the last hour?
My 4th old fashioned was 22 minutes ago.
So very much still in your system.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I am. For those watching, they can see I'm very flush, not drunk, but certainly tipsy, loose, ready to roll. Episode 26 is here.
Loose. Well, yeah, people get loose when they're drunk.
Yeah,
loose.
Hey, watch the shoulders, huh? Watch the shoulders. Tyler Witt, how you doing?
You know, we're living. I'm
You're
not
on a
certainly
following spree right now.
I am. If you just received a follow from us on Twitter, follow us back, please. That'd be cool.
Just, I mean, and in the release of this episode, just 2 days ago, just got one. But all the following is happening because we've started a new segment on the podcast, Starting 5. It kind of bookends the episode. Just that back half of the episode, though, where we draft. Jack, stop thinking. It distracts me.
The bookends are the first and last thing.
Yeah, but it doesn't bookend it at all. Today it'll bookend it because we're talking about it at the top, and we'll talk about it at the bottom. But Starting 5, where we draft a random thing. This week it'll be bad takes. We're going to draft bad takes. I choose that because I got the most votes. I'm 2-0, and Tyler's on a following spree right now because he's trying to recruit as many Tyler favored people
he wants Tyler
to the
voters.
social media streams so that he could get Tyler voters.
See, in all reality, like, I'm following people so that we don't just get 11 votes on our Twitter poll, because that's not really like
I would say
fair distribution.
That's how I'm for. I just want more people following. I don't care if we get 300 votes and 299 of them are Tyler sycophants.
Whoa, holy shit. 300 votes?
Well,
That'd be
just
sweet.
that was an example, was all.
It would be sweet. It would be 10 times our episodic listenership.
Well, that's what I'm trying to drive home. Is I don't care how many people vote. I just want them to vote. I don't care if they don't vote for me or if everybody votes for just the person that they, I don't know the best in the real world. I don't care. Just come vote, right? It's your civic responsibility.
Right.
And civic duty.
And if you like the stuff that we talk about, like the polls, I guess, like if you like the Starting 5, then why not tune in for an episode and listen? Maybe you'll hear some sports and you'll like it. Then you listen to the whole thing. Then you slowly consume every episode of our podcast.
I am a whore for user-generated content. I will use almost anything that listeners give us. If you suggest a topic and I win, I will likely use what you suggest. So throw that on the polls too, and it'll probably end up on the show. We don't get a whole lot of user-generated content, so it's a probability, a strong possibility that will end up on the show. So any suggestion, other than something racy or weird or something, we will probably draft.
I also I should say I don't really like the YouTube generation of the make sure you comment and like and repost and all that, but you kind of have to do that. I definitely like the feed, the buzz, comment, say who was right, who was wrong, who was the best, who was the worst. Tweet at me specifically if I suck. These guys don't need to hear it. You don't have to follow me. I'm not going to really give you anything outside of this, but let's get some more commentary. I like somebody gave Tyler a brief compliment before smacking him across the face and undoubtedly voting against him.
Okay, shout out Coach Sabo, right?
Yeah, that's my O-line coach. He
Oh, is that who that was?
My O-line trainer, yeah. In
fucking
Illinois.
dunked on you.
Shout out to Fist Football. If you're an O-lineman in the area, go to them for work. Free ads.
All right.
We'll give him free ad.
We'll give free ads to Coach Sabo. But listen, we've got a lot to get into. Starting five is at the end of the episode. We got bad takes. I would stick around for the whole episode. If you want to just listen for the polls, skip ahead to the polls. That's fine. It still shows as you listen to the whole podcast when we look at the metrics on the back end. So
Oh boy. All right. Well, where are we starting? Let's start somewhere.
we're counting our wins to start. For those who are just joining us for the first time, because Tyler 2 days ago was on a gigantic following spree. This is a best of the week segment. We bring something to the table that's either from our personal lives, from the sports world, from pop culture, and we count it as a win for the week. Tyler Witt, because you were on such a following spree 2 fucking days ago, go ahead and lead us off.
My win of this week is this. I got into a new book. Recently came out. Rick Rubin. He's a well-known producer, music producer, just pure talent guy. Doesn't have a musical background. So look up to him in a way. And he wrote this book called The Creative Act, A Way of Being. And it is a book all about getting in touch with the creative side of your life, how to live as an artist and as a creator. And man, it's really fucking good. Like I can't put it down, but I've been wanting to try to find time in my day to be away from everything just so I can focus on the book. That way I'm like actually digesting it really good. This is definitely a book I'm going to read more than once. And I can only say that about a handful of books. So I'm just thrilled that I have a piece of like a book that I can actually read. Like, I don't know. Like it's been harder for me to get into books lately. So I'm excited about this one.
That's super cool. Very celebratory for the time of year we're at. St. Patrick's Day just passing. So it's pretty cool that you're reading a book by a dude whose last name is Rubin. That's a corned beef joke for all listening.
Oh gosh.
We should get a bad joke counter in the corner or something just per episode.
One.
I don't endorse that idea.
No, but I also think it's cool that you are adding this to the books that you can read multiple times, because I have a list of books that I have read once, and that is all the books that I've ever read.
I do like also when you point out that you're just so into the book. I haven't really sat down and read a book in a couple of years, but I think it wouldn't be too crazy to say a good book is harder to not just roll through than like a good TV show, right? There's something about holding the end, I think, where you just want to keep pushing through, and you put the book away for a second. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to get through this. The TV show will wait, right? That's going to be a week. It's going to be a couple days, few hours. The book, you have no idea how long it'll take. So you grind that, right?
Or in some cases, you don't have access to the next episode of the
True.
show, versus the book. You have all the material is there in your hands.
I don't know. It's like that. I think it's also like a sense of satisfaction as you're like flipping through the book, right? Like, oh, I only have 50 pages left versus like an episode of like television. You don't really know how much time is left. You just kind of like just binge. There's always another episode, right?
Unless there isn't, but yes.
These old fashions are talking.
I am on my shit right now. I want to go next. I will count my win. I'll bring it from the world of sports, and I will say that the Laramie Tunsil story is one that should probably be celebrated. I don't know a whole ton about Laramie in his personal life, but I would say we should probably celebrate the fact that this guy was ramrodded on the night of the 2016 draft, was projected rather to go number 1 overall. An hour before the draft kicks off, a picture leaks on Twitter of him in what is the most intriguing pot smoking apparatus I've ever seen in my life. It's like a plague doctor's mask that just so happens to be a bong. And they post that picture of him. Also, you can't really tell it's him because he's hotboxing the mask, but he slips from 1 to 13 and the Dolphins draft him. And then the Dolphins end up trading him in what would net them a bunch of first-round picks where they really benefit from. He goes to the Texans, ends up being the highest-paid left tackle in football, and then as of Sunday of this past week, he becomes the highest-paid left tackle in football again. So I kind of bring this to the table because I think it's interesting. We have a similar type story happening in this year's draft with Jalen Carter. Now, Jalen's in a very different situation with a lot more real world consequences attached to it. But this is a situation where Jalen Carter rightfully could be the number one pick in the draft, but because of off the field situations, he's going to slip in this year's draft. And I think that, it could be very similar stories. Obviously, we don't know. There's a whole lot of time to go by before we can accurately say that. But it's a thought that came to my mind this week. But I also think we should count the Laramie Tunsil story as a win.
Definitely. I think it speaks to the idea that a lot of professional athletes will probably endure moments at one point or another where they are either rightfully or wrongfully vilified or painted in a bad light, criticized unjustly or justly. And to see the talent win out, especially in the NFL, not to hype up that the NFL is this great, redemption tour kind of place, but the fact that teams are often mostly talent interested, even in spite of shortcomings. And so this is a case where, yeah, you slid in the draft, but that was not a nail in the coffin on your career. It's you're really good, and we're going to pay you like you're really good, and then we're going to pay you like you're really good again. And there is a winning feeling about that.
Well, and there's an underlining moral to the story there of like your past trials and tribulations aren't who you are necessarily now. You can still change and become a better version of yourself every single day. So I think that's kind of maybe the thing to celebrate in the Laramie Tunsil story, on top of him getting his bag and being very vocal about it. I love when athletes, something good happens in their career, something big happens in their career, and you can see the direct correlation on their social media. He posted the "pay me my money" meme on his Twitter. So, those are always fun.
I think it's another interesting thing about this deal for Laramie is the fact that he's resetting the market for all tackles going forward, because he's not signing these big one or long-term deals, right? It's always for a couple years, and he becomes the highest paid tackle. So he's helping the entire league, is the rest of the players just have an opportunity for them to make that generational money, get compensated fairly for their services, but also not being locked in for long periods of time.
Yeah, and that left tackle market is one that's so volatile, so important, right? In professional football, and one that's always constantly going to be one of the highest dollar amounts on a specific roster. So for him to go out and continually get the high money that's necessary, it's great for that group. The left tackles of football and such. It's great for them, especially after the Orlando Brown deal that came through with Cincinnati. That was a market setting deal. Laramie Tunsil comes out and sets a brand new market. For those who get it. I won't go super deep into details here, but it's cool to see him fighting for that. It's cool to see when guys are coming together and being all right, I'm going to do this because I know it's better for the collective good of our professional football playing brothers that I am not a part of, but I'm speaking in the context of Laramie Tunsil. I am Laramie Tunsil. He is me. I am him. Jack, your win for the week.
Yeah, mine is personal and sports related. It is yesterday, which was Sunday the 19th. It was I strongly believe was my personal most successful, most profitable gambling date that I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yep. We're on the back half of the round of 32 in men's NCAA basketball. And I didn't bet all the games together. I had a lot of combinations of things, a lot of different things thrown around, and pretty much picked every game right and felt good and went after it confidently. So, it's not maybe life-changing crazy stuff like you'll see FanDuel or DraftKings post on Twitter, but it was enough that I'm like, oh, I can't watch the first half of this TCU Gonzaga game because I'm going to get too nervous. So I played some video games and then turned on the second half, and I don't normally get too nervous to watch a sporting event. So it was cool.
I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on the tournament this later in the show, because
we will get
what a crazy weekend.
March is madness.
True madness.
Before we get there, let's get through our intercepted at the goal line. This is our worst of the week. We bring that to the table again from the world of sports, our personal lives, or even pop culture. And so, Tyler, with the mention of March Madness, I see that you have an alma mater listed, and so you can bring them to the table, lay them to bed, put them 6 feet under, put them wherever you want. Take the floor.
Last week they were in my count my wins. This week they're in my intercepted at the goal line. The
Such a
Purdue
fall far from
Boilermakers.
grace.
Man, it's been a tough week to be a Boilermaker, man. Tough loss to Fairleigh Dickinson, a school no one knew existed until the tournament, and good for them. You know, it was good for Fairleigh Dickinson, huge achievement for them. But you hate to see a talented team like Purdue lose in that fashion, and because it wasn't like Fairleigh Dickinson took it to them. So hats off to Fairleigh Dickinson, but Purdue is in a state of unrest right now.
No, I think they're in a state of laid to rest right
There's
now.
a lot of resting going.
Yeah, a lot of
There's
resting.
not-
It was.
I-
I would like to say it was a rebuilding year on accounts of like everyone. Super young team, excited for next year, but really disappointing in the tournament. And they're
I got
16
a
under.
I got a phone call from my dad after Purdue lost. My dad, for those who don't know, is about as hardo a sports fan as you can get. I try to convert him all the time of not being like a yuckity yuck sports fan. But he calls me after the Purdue and FDU game, and he goes, "Man, I got to tell you, those Boilermakers, man, they played like fucking pussies." He's like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "They played like fucking pussies. They were out there. They couldn't fucking rebound the ball. They got bodied by school. Where's FDU? Where's FDU? I don't know. They
Teaneck, New
played."
Jersey.
He's like, "They played like a bunch of fucking bitches." He's like, "That tall guy?" He's like, "What was the fucking tall guy doing all game? He did nothing. He did nothing. Where's the fucking tall guy?" I didn't watch a second of the game. I don't know. He's like, "Well, they just played terribly. They were real bad, son. Real bad." I was like, okay.
Because I watched the whole game, and I'll save my analysis for later in the show when we talk about more of the tournament. But I have an answer to that, so we'll save it.
All right.
All right,
Jack,
goes.
you're intercepted at the goal line.
Yeah, I'm gonna thoughtfully phrase things because my intercepted at the goal line, I guess, is gonna be bureaucracy and government, but more specifically, it was
fuck?
yeah. And I'm trying to think. I'll be tasteful about this. So I think it was Super Bowl weekend. I got a ticket, traffic parking related ticket type thing, right? And like, okay, sure. Like I did the thing that I was accused of doing. I'm not putting up a fight. Like, give me a ticket, I'll pay the ticket, whatever. I today made the trip to finally pay the ticket because apparently the government is too old to know how to like take payment. So you can't pay with a credit card or debit card. You can't pay. Obviously, you shouldn't mail cash, so you can't do that. So I
think it's
mailed a
illegal.
check. Huh?
I think it's illegal to send
Right,
cash in the
right.
mail.
So obviously didn't do that. So I mailed a check, and it got mailed back to me, and they said, "Oh, this is a personal check. We can't take that." So I called, and I'm like, "All right, I'm a simple guy when it comes to money. How the heck am I supposed to pay you if I can't use cash, card, or check?" And they told me, "Well, you can pay cash. You just
War
have to do it
bonds.
on site." And I'm like, "All right." So it's like a 30-minute drive from where I am, which is kind of annoying. And I'm like, "Well, I'll just do that." And they're like, "Well, what's your name?" So I gave them my name, and they looked up my incident, and it wasn't in the system. So I'm like, "All right, this
I'm
has
not paying
happened
it.
a month ago." They're like, "Well, you can't pay cash if it's not in the system." I'm like, "Well, how do I get it in the system? I sent you the ticket." "Well, the police have to file the ticket, and they haven't gotten around to it yet." I'm like, "All right, but my due date is in 2 weeks, a week and a half at that point, maybe a week, I don't remember." And I'm like, "If I don't pay by this date, I owe you extra for late fees." They're like, "Yeah, that's correct." And I'm like, "But I can't pay because they haven't put it in the system." "Correct." "Okay, so what happens if they don't put it in the system in time?" "Well, then there will be late fees." Like, that's not my fault. So the one way I was able to do it is I had to go to the post office and get a money order, which is not something I knew existed. And I wasn't going to mail it because if it got late in the mail, I'm also getting hit with late fees. So I went today, and just when I got there, they looked up. They're like, "You're not in the system." I'm like, "Okay, not a surprise to me. I have this money order." So they're going to hold it. But if I don't get filed in the system by the arresting officer or the police or whatever, um, then they're going to send the money order back to me because I can't pay for something that doesn't exist, but I'll still be responsible to pay it. And, not to get too political or anything, but I will say I'm not super surprised at the efficiency and competency of this government-funded operation.
It
I just want to pay the money and be done.
It doesn't matter what side of the aisle your brain sits, what animal icon you follow, the donkey or the elephant or other. That is a completely stupid fucking situation to be
This
in.
is how people get into like super bad. Luckily, I have a ton of time on my hands and the ability to drive out and pay this thing. Because if I was a busier person or if I didn't have the funds or whatever, this is how people rack up all sorts of fees. Not because they don't want to pay, because they don't let you pay and then they say you're late.
Yep.
Oh, so that easy intercepted the goal line. I asked the clerk today, I said, "Here's my ticket. Here's my money order. Are we done?" And she's like, "Well, if it's not filed, we'll contact you." I'm like, why on earth would you need to contact me? You have the payment. So I'm hoping it's over, but we might have to revisit this in a while.
Keep us updated on this story. We've
It's
got a
been
couple of
6
episodes.
weeks.
6 weeks. What are you bringing me? Ooh,
Oh, snack time.
snack
Let's
time.
see. Let's see. Show
Snack
it to the
time.
camera.
It is popcorn. Hold on, I got to do my influencer hand.
Oh, it's gonna fall off the plate if you tilt it too
Popcorn.
much.
Only one fell.
Nice.
An orange.
Nice.
And I think this is supposed to be a charcuterie board.
That looks like one to me.
It is just ham on a plate. Thank you, babe. Turkey on a plate. Sweet. Very cool.
All right. Well, what was intercepted at your goal line?
Well, it comes from the realm of sports. One of the bigger storylines that we've been waiting to unraveled kind of this past week. Aaron Rodgers hit the Pat McAfee show, I want to say on Thursday of last week. Well, by the time this come out, who knows when the fuck the time frames will be.
It was on
But
Thursday.
he was on the Pat McAfee show, announced that he wants to play football next season, announced that he would like to play football and has intentions of playing football for the New York Jets next season. And so I don't know who is intercepted at the goal line here, if it's the Packers, if it's Aaron Rodgers, if it's the Jets. It certainly wasn't Pat McAfee, though.
Is it us?
It might be us. Like the collective media may have just got. It could be that he's just trolling again. But there were 450,000 people viewing the Pat McAfee show on YouTube when Aaron Rodgers was on and making his decision, which is more than the average NHL game this season.
All right, that felt like a little unnecessary there.
It was a statistic that was thrown out on Twitter that I felt needed to be shared because it's a crazy fucking stat. But I don't know who lost there. And maybe we can have a brief conversation about who lost more. Is it the Packers, who are probably going to get some sort of trade compensation? Is it the Jets, who are going to inherit a crazy person? Is it Aaron Rodgers, who is, going to go to a team that realistically probably has a better roster, but also is one of those cursed franchises? I open it up for discussion.
I think it puts the Packers in a hole. I feel like Jordan Love's very unproven. I mean, what is your answer? You go get a quarterback in the draft, again, an unproven NFL quarterback, with a limited talent on their roster. So I think the Packers are the real losers in the end. I mean, I guess you relieve yourself of the headache of Aaron Rodgers being on your team, but it is Aaron Rodgers who wins you games.
Yeah, but you're moving to
Regular
the next
season
phase.
games.
This last year, I think, kind of showed that Rodgers doesn't quite have all of what he had, and the Packers, to ride that out, is one of those kind of gesture type things, Packer for life sort of deal. But these two parties, Rodgers and the Packers, certainly there's not a bunch of love lost between the two. I actually think, having watched segments of the McAfee stuff, I hate Aaron Rodgers so much for being so obnoxious. I used to love Aaron Rodgers, and the stuff he was saying, I would have loved if I still supported him. But I have lost. He's fallen out of favor with me. But what he was saying was right, is he's been a Packer for forever, and he's never hit the free agent market. Like, he has shown loyalty to them. He wants the team to get better. He doesn't like some of the organizational things that they've done. He's ridden out the storm. Now they've ridden out the storm that he has been as well. But it does seem, I think the Packers are also the losers from that YouTube program, but for different reasons, not for football reasons. But I think it kind of showed. He highlighted some other players, Clay Matthews, Jordy Nelson, who have also been treated with a similar lack of regard towards the end of their career. And he made a decent point in saying, I'm one of the best players ever to be a Packer, and I'm the longest tenured Packer player ever. Yeah,
he made the point that he is the greatest Packer ever.
He said it was debatably, I think was the word that he used.
Aaron Rodgers, the way that he phrased it, that. He said he is the greatest Packer ever. And he tried to add some grace to it.
Sure.
You're probably right. It's probably correct. And like, I'm not even in a situation to say like, well, there should be a certain amount of grace in that. If you know it and you got it, flaunt it. I don't care.
Exactly.
But it's a crazy sentence to hear somebody say, like, I'm the greatest this organization has ever seen.
And it's crazy to hear somebody currently with the Green Bay Packers say, I intend to play for, and then name a specific team. All of that is wild, and I think is super cool if I didn't hate Aaron Rodgers from the last 3 years. So he was a loser for everything leading up to this, and then the things he said kind of made the Packers look like a loser organization. I think that was pretty clear to me.
I would almost say the Jets, where we stand today, on Monday, March 20th at 7 o'clock, I would almost say right now the Jets are the biggest losers.
Really?
Because they've had to sign Alan Lazard and go through the whole rigmarole of them looking like the team that
Hackett.
They got Hackett. They got Alan Lazard for an exorbitant contract. And it looks like they're the team that is being held hostage by a crazy person right now. And they're waiting for like the police to show up and climb the 8 stories to like break the door down and save them. I would almost say where we stand currently, the Jets are the biggest losers. If they
currently, yeah, that's fair.
If they do indeed acquire Aaron Rodgers, then they're not the biggest losers because now they have the quarterback that they desperately need to get to that next level. But where we stand currently, they look like somebody who they're almost like the guy who is like, oh, I'm the good guy. I'll stand by idly while you go through your relationship troubles with your current partner, and then when that ends, I'm gonna jump in. They're almost in that kind of a situation right now where they're acquiring assets to be like, look, this is the better situation. Come this way. I've been waiting so patiently. Come over here. Like, it's almost that type of a situation. But so right now they are kind of like, in my mind, the biggest losers. Again, if they get Aaron, it's different.
Sure. I can see that.
So we do have quite a bit to get into in terms of March Madness as we transition out of Intercepted at the Goal Line. Jack, this is your shit. Tyler, I know you've watched a lot. I have been busy and disinterested a little bit, but still following the ebbs and flows of the bracket. I know that there has been a ton of upsets. We've lost 2 number 1 seeds already. Maybe the least strong of the 2 1 seeds we've lost. But there's so much to cover. And so, Jack, I kind of turn it over to you now to guide us through the fact that March is madness.
So that's where I would like to start. This is my favorite time of year, but it's also one of the least favorite times of year for me is the post weekend 1 enduring the, oh my gosh, is this the craziest tournament we've ever had? Guys, there's a reason it's called March Madness. It's because every tournament is crazy. And actually, I think for the most part, this first round wasn't as crazy as we've seen in the past. And the second round was probably about on pace. We definitely had the magnitude of some of the upsets was very high, but the breadth of how many wild occurrences there were. We've had not very many buzzer beaters. We had one really notable one, a couple big upsets. But this is the part where everybody's like, oh my gosh, March Madness is so cool. Oh my gosh, I'm going to watch all these college basketball games. And then next November, all of you are just going to be hiding under a rock again. So I appreciate the support while it's going on. But I have learned time and time again, even with some of my longtime closest friends, words have no meaning. There is no binding actions because everyone will go, oh, I think I'm kind of into this. I could see liking it a bit more. Okay, fine. I won't talk to you guys again until March 12th when you wake up, right? So let's get that out of the way first. Everybody loves it now, but you're going to get over it soon. We could talk the big stories. So the only real buzzer beater that is coming off the top of my head was Furman beating Virginia, which is awesome because it happened in the first block of games. Did you guys see? I'm sure you saw the play, not the game. You saw Kihei Clark just launching the ball to midcourt and turning it over with 2 seconds left.
Yes.
That
Brutal.
might be one of the weirdest things I've seen in March Madness in a long time.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that's something that he's going to live with forever, and that's really tough as a player. I really feel for him in that regard, but I mean, Furman made the most of it.
Yeah, and you just think, like, if he waits 2 seconds, if he's able to fend off and not force a jump ball, not turn it over, get fouled, whatever, you could throw that ball in the air and time will expire when it lands, but he did it so early that there was plenty of time left, and it wasn't a true buzzer beater. It was like 2.2 on the clock when Furman hit it, but that first slate of games, that first block was pretty gnarly to get everybody waking if you were able to watch on a Thursday during the day.
It does kind of show you, like, part of March Madness is the fact that there are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids playing in super high intensity moments on national television with millions of people watching and tons of emotion riding, and even more pressure on these games now that there's like money and alums and things that are like very intently paying attention to it because it's so readily available. That kind of pressure can impact a game humongously, and it did. And I also love the fact that Kevin Harlan had that call, because
So
who
good.
better than Kevin Harlan to call a
GOAT.
big basketball moment? A+.
Yeah. Let's see. What else do we have that first round? Oh, Princeton beating Arizona was kind of a big one. I actually was texting one of my friends who's also into college basketball, and we had watched all the conference tournaments and stuff on Selection Sunday night. We had mentioned, Princeton kind of profiled as a 13. It feels weird that they got a 15. So people knew they were dangerous, but weren't supposed to win. And Princeton, we're sitting here after the round of 32, still alive. Took out Mizzou in the next round. So 15 seed in the Sweet 16 for, what was it, the third time in 4 years, I think.
Something like that.
Let's see. What other major storylines did we have? There were just a lot of good competitive games. Unfortunately, I guess it's about that time because I think there was only one other notable upset in the first round. And Tyler, maybe you can jog my memory on what it was.
I totally deserve this, and I faded the whole Big Ten in the tournament. Particularly
Not the whole Big Ten.
particularly most of the Big Ten. I think Penn State was the only team I didn't fade, and they ended up winning. But Purdue lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. Gut-wrenching loss. To go back to like what Ryan's dad was saying about our big guy just not being a factor. One of the statistics, the Ken Palm statistics that I saw, was that Fairleigh Dickinson, out of 380 plus Division I college basketball programs, their height rating was dead last, and Purdue's was first. It was literally David versus Goliath out there. And Purdue really just couldn't adjust to playing against smaller players. And it showed. Like, they didn't know what to do. They didn't have an answer for anything. They couldn't beat a press. So, yeah, I mean, Fairleigh Dickinson played a really good game. And their head coach called it earlier in the week. The more I watch Purdue, the more I think we can beat them.
Dude, what a crazy thing to hear. Pre-round one from a 16 seed. He took it back because he's like, oh, I don't like the attention that it's getting. And then he ended up being right.
Yeah. I mean, way to call your shot. I don't know the coach's name off the top of my head, but it was his first year in the program, and they ended up there on
Tobin Anderson.
something like that. But they ended up there on a technicality because Merrimack was the team that won their conference tournament, and they just had their transition into to Division I, so they couldn't participate in the tournament. So they got there on a technicality. Their record wasn't great, and they ended up beating the 1 seed. So crazy
And they had
story.
to play in. They weren't even a regular 16 seed. They had to play to get into the round of 64. And they get through that. No, that was one of the most unlikely upsets that we've ever. Actually, I think it was by spread the biggest jump. It was 23.5 points, 24.5 points. I think that was the biggest spread ever overcome in a March Madness game. Just to talk about Tobin Anderson a little bit too. It was interesting that some of the kind of person of interest stories they gave us, that he mostly has coached Division III, Division II, and hearing him talk, getting emotional. He's like, we would get excited when there were crowds of 100 that came to watch because we're like, wow, look at all these people who want to see us succeed. It's like just the opportunity for a guy like that to get to this level of coaching. And he brought a handful of his D2 players with him. So on this Fairleigh Dickinson roster are at least 3 players that were not Division I until this guy got his coaching job. So lean into the David Goliath. This is a real underdog type thing. And the last cool thing that I had seen, Florida Atlantic ends up beating Fairleigh Dickinson in the round of 32. But there was a report, and I wish I had remembered the name of who I had seen this from, that because Fairleigh Dickinson's so small, they don't have a band. They don't have a school band, and everybody brings their school band to support them. And you can hear that on the broadcasts. So when you heard a band playing Fairleigh Dickinson's fight song or playing to cheer them on, that was the University of Dayton who stepped up and is like, these guys don't have a band. Like, let's go play for them. And after the first round, the members of the Dayton band then went to Party City and all bought plastic swords to raise in the air because they're the Fairleigh Dickinson Knights. So it kind of this like transplanted small program away from home. There were just local people that said, they deserve support too. And I think that's a cool story that maybe only gets highlighted because they pulled off this upset, but it's one of those faith in humanity restored type moments that, just makes you feel good.
And something you're only going to get at the college level.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that is A+ stuff, class act type stuff from the University of Dayton. And also, again, probably the biggest story so far is FDU and their takedown of Purdue, which was just outstanding. And like my dad said, Purdue played like a bunch of fucking pussies. I squabbled, is that a word? With the idea of having my dad on the show today to talk about Purdue and then kicking him out and saying, all right, bye, Dad. But opted not to for good reason, because he gets a little carried away at times. So we talk about all the round 1 upsets. Then we move into the round of 32. The round 2 and the round of 32. That's where I was tripping. And I think one of the fun stories and something that comes up almost every single year in March Madness is Michigan State and Tom Izzo and the way that he preps his team to make runs. If they're in the Sweet 16, they're a 7 seed. This is a lot of times where they end up is around the 7, 8, 9, maybe a little bit higher where they're 6 or 5. And, they do make some upsets. This year so far, they've taken out a lower seed at USC, but then they take down a number 2 seed in Michigan State, and they're in a really nice position to possibly go to the Elite 8 in a advantageous situation down there in the East. They're playing Kansas State, and on the other side is FAU and Tennessee. Like, Michigan State's now got a real chance.
Yeah, it is crazy that I think we had touched on it here, and I certainly have talked about it in my circles, that this, to me, jumped out as the weakest region by a pretty good stretch. And we've now seen number 1 go down, number 2 go down, number 3 is still in it, but now Kansas State, as the 3 seed, is they're listed as underdogs according to Vegas against Michigan State.
Wow.
I thought Michigan State would lose in the first round. I liked USC's team more, and like you said, the Spartans have just sort of treaded water for a few years. They used to be, top class, really, really good, and they've just hung around. But after having seen that game, that's why I switched my pick and had them beating Marquette. just because they're playing so well. Like there's not enough cracks that you can exploit with this team. I am probably going to lean Kansas State going into this next round because I think the top talent at Kansas State can overwhelm the top talent at Michigan State with guys like Keontae Johnson, who's a Florida transfer, Marquise Noel, who's like 85% free throw shooter or something. But no, Michigan State being the last Big Ten team standing and the only one to qualify for the Sweet 16. Well, okay, the first part is surprising. The second one, it seemed like we might only get one Big Ten team in the Sweet 16, but I don't think too many people had it beating Michigan State. So, Tyler, we were right in the end. It was smart to pick against the Big Ten. We just maybe missed a couple of spots.
So, do you remember the bet that we talked about too, about which team would have the most teams in the Sweet 16?
No.
We talked about that on the bracket breakdown. You talked about like the Big Ten. One of you two guys brought up the fact that the Big Ten was like, even though they had the most teams in the tournament, that they had one of the lower odds of getting the most teams into the Sweet 16. They've got one. The SEC has sent three. Yeah, which is
Alabama, Arkansas,
and technically four if you want to count Texas, even though it's a little bit early, but.
Well, then they give the Big Ten UCLA still hanging around.
the two for, there you go.
No, the Big East is really, I think that's the Big East is the last thing that I want to touch on. Is they've been fantastic. And this was supposedly the best conference in basketball. That's probably who I would have picked going into the tournament. I had a lot of their teams going far, didn't care for Providence, but the other four I had going to the Elite Eight. Marquette, who missed, Creighton is still in it, Xavier's still in it, and UConn's still in it. Notably missing Villanova, who's been good for a long time. Jay Wright's not coaching there anymore. But the Big East also is making news today outside of March Madness because St. John's fired their coach, and now Rick Pitino is going to be next in line.
I'm happy you brought this up.
Eddie Cooley, who used to coach at Providence, has been out. Georgetown fired Patrick Ewing, who had like a 14% win rate in his few seasons there. Ed Cooley's going to be coming to Georgetown. So it's if you're a good Big East team right now, it's a little scary because all of the bad teams are sort of arming up. And there's a lot more parity just within that conference, which has been the best so far this year. It's tough.
DePaul fired their head coach too.
Yeah.
They're not a big contender in the Big East, but I'm just throwing out another.
That's true, though.
I'm just throwing out, something that I saw in college basketball that I thought you'd be proud of.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Jog my memory, one of you two. Rick Pitino, Louisville.
Yes.
Great coach at Louisville. Been at Iona the past couple of years.
Correct.
What happened again? Because time will heal all wounds, including whatever the hell Rick Pitino did. Because I forgot what he did and why he was fired and sent away from Louisville, because he spent some years in the shadows for doing some not so great things.
Yeah, he was coaching overseas for a bit.
Was it grooming? Was he grooming? It was something to do with like just gross sexual misconduct, I thought.
It was recruiting stuff.
Was it?
And it was also sex stuff because and I think there were a lot of other symptoms of the just recruiting problems, but the big headline part of the case was I think Louisville was bringing in like escorts to recruits when they were visiting campus, which not only against, standard recruiting policy, but also just kind of an icky thing when you're bringing high schoolers in to visit your college. But that was the biggest thing. And that kept him out of college for a while. He got hired at Iona 3 years ago. And that was kind of a surprise. People are like, wow, we didn't think he'd ever be in the NCAA again. And then it's like, well, maybe he'll just quietly ride his career out at Iona. But no, now he's finding his way back at another Power 6 conference.
Yeah, that happened earlier today. Timely. I think another thing that I'm going to force you two to talk about is Eric Musselman.
Oh my gosh,
shirtless Musselman and the must bus and being shirtless on a fucking scoring table, waving his shirt around to all the Razorback faithful. They're in the Sweet 16 for the first time in a little bit.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't think it's been that long because they had some really good players. Some guys who are in the NBA now on their team.
Bobby Portis. Not
that long ago. Yeah, Bobby Portis was there. Let me see. Hey, waffle for a bit. I'll look up.
But definitely, I think it was reasonable. I mean, they upset a number one team in round 32. I mean, that's pretty exciting. Settled the debate between Arkansas and Kansas. It is now that Kansas is now to be called can saw from what I've seen. So
The old Vine. You remember the old Vine?
yeah.
Why is
Well,
this one Kansas and this one is not Arkansas?
All right, I've got your info. This is actually their third. They made the Elite Eight the past 2 years. I was going to say they've been all right.
Okay,
pretty
so I am-
easy paths. They took out like the Oral Roberts Miracle Run 2 years ago. They upset Gonzaga last year after facing a 13 and a 12 seed. So they've been good lately, but definitely beating Kansas is still a pretty notable story. Okay, wait. This is what I remember. I wanted to ask this here, Tyler, especially you being more predisposed to college athletics and coaches. This feels like the kind of thing that a coach does more to rile his team up than anything else, or is it just like some guys are like this, some are not? Do you think it was a show for his players, or do you think he was just that wild?
I think he's just that kind of guy. Like if you listen to interviews, like he's super passionate about his players and just being with them and working with them. So I think it was more for, he had that genuine excitement. So I mean, players eat it up either way. Like even if it was just a show for his players, like they eat it up. So good on him for being willing to do that. And then struggling to put it on before the interview was also hilarious.
That's the risk you run when you take the shirt off. You're like, oh shoot, my job is not over. I gotta keep doing stuff after the buzzer.
Though would be very cool to do an interview shirtless as a head coach.
That would be a bold play, at least.
Because a lot of times people don't realize coaches of major athletic programs at major universities in any state are typically some of the highest paid state employees. Typically, it's the biggest head football coach in your state is most likely the highest state paid employee. So it'd be fun to watch a government paid employee go shirtless into an interview and it be okay because he is a basketball coach and not somebody who makes life decisions for you and me and the common man.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about it that way. That like, oh yeah, no, this is University of Arkansas. This is not some private Catholic school or something.
What if it was the other way around? What if you're just local senator? You just see him on the news debating shirtless.
Recreational marijuana gets legalized in Illinois, and Pritzker just runs up, waving his shirt in the air. Let's go!
Oh God, not Pritzker. Looks good in a vest, but not shirtless.
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen.
There's definitely shirts guys, and there's definitely skins guys.
Yeah, I am a shirts guy for sure. A shirts guy. I do want to look through the lens of our bracket that we put together as a podcast and just kind of look at where we're at and where March Madness actually is and maybe take some things into account and learn for next year.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the South in the Sweet 16, we had Alabama, which is right. We also had Virginia.
Oh, in the Sweet 16. Yeah.
It's San Diego State in that spot that's playing Alabama. We on the other side,
been Virginia if Guy doesn't launch a ball to half court. By the way,
could have been Virginia, but it's not. On the other side of things, we had Baylor and Arizona. Both of those teams are gone.
We deserve to get Arizona wrong after 2 out of 3 people on the show misidentified them as Bears. That should have been the kiss of death. That's when I should have just put all my money on Princeton. They're like, if we can't figure out this, if you guys said you didn't know the Fairleigh Dickinson mascot, I'd be like, all right, whatever. But like, we maybe disrespected Arizona, rightfully so.
Yeah, that was my proudest. That was not my proudest moment, but it did happen. On the other side, looking at the Midwest, we had Houston. Yeah. Points for us. That's our second correct team. Mm-hmm. And then we had Kent State here. Miami ended up taking out Indiana. Kent State didn't make it out of the round of 64.
Indiana actually handled them way more easily than I expected. I thought Kent State would at least throw up a bit more of a fight.
I'm just glad Indiana lost. That's really...
Dude, these Hurricanes, man. They were my team last year. They made me so much money. No one believed that they could take out even USC. And now I want to believe in them, but they looked so bad against Drake. I don't know how they're going to keep going.
Now, Jack, your Your money team this year was Kennesaw State, who you had winning at least one game this year. They didn't make it out of the round of 64, but they did push Xavier to the brink.
And I would like to point out also, for those of you few that do follow me on Twitter, when you have time to develop your thoughts, I did post before the tournament started my own personal official bracket. And upon further inspection, I did actually have Xavier going to the Elite Eight. But as of Monday when we recorded, I was very high on Kennesaw State, and I led us the wrong direction there, I think.
Well, Xavier is now into the Sweet 16, replacing who we had. We had Iowa State making it that far. Iowa State didn't even score 45 points in this tournament. They were booted quickly by the play-in Pitt squad.
God,
So
dude.
the Sweet 16 on the bottom half of the Midwest bracket is Xavier and Texas is our third correct team.
Nice. I would like to throw the stat out about Iowa State. I thought they would beat Pitt. I felt pretty good about that. They not only looked awful, they shot the ball 20 more times than Pitt in that game. And they lost by 19 and scored about 1 point per minute. That may actually, forget about Howard against Kansas. How does Howard stand a chance? Iowa State, the single worst team in this tournament. There's no way anybody could top. That was the most disastrous performance out of all 68 teams.
Hot take.
Awful.
Looking at the East, this is a wash. This is a complete wash. We had our Elite Eight matchup for the East was Purdue and Marquette.
Oh, the East. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not great.
In the Sweet 16, we have one team correct, and it's Kansas State. Our matchups on our bracket that we picked were Purdue versus Duke and Kansas State versus Marquette. So we have four correct teams.
Yeah, that and Memphis, by the way, losing to Florida Atlantic in a very close game. That one also came down to the wire. Should have mentioned that in the first part that we did. They were actually my own personal pick to go to the Final Four from that region. And that was the most costly defeat for me, both emotionally and financially in the first round.
Now we move to the West, where we probably did the best job we possibly could.
West is best.
We had in the Sweet 16, Kansas and UConn, Gonzaga and UCLA.
It's not bad.
We almost doubled our correct teams as a podcast. So 7 correct teams out of 16, almost half. Which, for a non-Hive Mind podcast pick of a March Madness bracket, that was pretty good.
Yeah,
we had one guy who knew his stuff. The other guy was picking anything that was not the Big Ten and Bears, and we have almost half the picks correct.
Yeah, I mean, logic makes sense, right? Bears.
Let's just, for the sake of tooting our own horn a little bit, who are our finalists? Who do we have
Alabama and UConn, and we did pick
alive.
UConn to win it all. So we still have our champion.
We are ahead of all of the Purdue brackets, the Arizona brackets, the Kansas brackets. There are a lot of people who do not have both of their finalists still in it. We've still got 3 of our Final 4, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, Houston or Texas. I don't remember who we picked, but one of those.
Our Final 4 is Houston and Marquette were the other 2 teams to fill in there. So yes, 3 of our Final 4 are still in.
Not bad. Not bad.
For a squad that picked based off of mascots, this isn't very bad.
There was some basketball logic in there.
There was also, I can't remember. Was it Virginia or something? There was an early pick you made, Tyler, where it's like, somebody who was a relative that went to that school. That was one of the early picks. I'm like, or somebody who lives in the state of Virginia. And I'm like, this could derail quick.
Yeah.
But that, hey, whatever works, right? And if it weren't for Kihei Clark, maybe your buddy in Virginia could benefit us.
So we have a lot to get to kind of set up our starting 5. It's an important topic that I would like to cover, but it's also going to set up our starting 5. And it has to do with the world of baseball, the World Baseball Classic. And it's nothing too deep. And I think something that everybody can kind of identify with, comment on, etc. Coming out of pool play, one of the more contentious groups was one that included Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. Going into this tournament, pool play, etc., the Dominican Republic was one of the most favored, if not the most favored team to win the entire thing. Well, Puerto Rico and the DR play a game. Winner goes to the tournament for the World Baseball Classic. Puerto Rico is an underdog. They go through, they win. They call on Edwin Diaz. They play the fucking trumpet song. They do the whole kit and caboodle. Edwin Diaz closes out the game. Puerto Rico celebrates after the game. Everybody's jumping up and down. Nothing crazy as a celebration, but like certainly celebrating the fact that they're an underdog team in this spot who took out a Goliath. Edwin Diaz, the superstar closer, just signed a gigantic new contract with the Mets, blows out his patellar tendon in his knee. Done for the year, could be done for some time. This is a career-altering injury because this is, I believe, on his plant leg, which takes the brunt of all of the force that his body creates when he's throwing that pitch. Blows out his patellar. Immediately, every Mets fan that has a Twitter is losing their marbles on Twitter. Everybody's freaking out. Rightfully so. It stinks that somebody who's going to be such a key cog in your machine is down in a game that at the end of the day doesn't have any consequence to what happens to the Mets in the course of a 162 game season. The outcome of it doesn't, but the injury does. I can see where fans would be like, man, that stinks. But then you have a situation where Barstool Sports employee, was it KFC? I don't even know which one of them did it, but goes on a rant on Twitter, a Frank the Tank level rant, who again is another Barstool employee. I hate to make so many references there, but goes on just this tantrum style rant on Twitter on how the World Baseball Classic the roster should not be filled out with MLB players. They should be college guys and minor league guys who fill out the roster, not the major league guys, because at the end of the day, they're who put butts in seats. They're the people who matters. None of these games matter. You can't possibly make him think that these games matter. And why would anybody want to play in the World Baseball Classic? A ton of people responded to this and said, you're absolutely wrong, including Marcus Stroman, who is a pitcher for the Cubs and also pitched on Team Puerto Rico this year, responded by saying, you're an idiot. Very typical coming from a Barstool boy. You're completely irrelevant and your opinions will never hold any weight. Wishing harm or injury on anybody shows how trash you are. Players love competing for their countries and take pride in it. Poo-poo take, you clown. Which is an awesome way to end a tweet.
Just slams it home at the end.
Poo-poo take, you clown is a great way to end a tweet. But I kind of set the stage here and bring this forward and say, I don't even know what the question is that I want to ask. But I think it centers around the fact that players don't owe us anything.
Right.
None of these guys are playing for money. They're all playing out of free will. And for anybody to ever think that a professional athlete owes us a thing is fucking crazy to me.
Yeah. I want to speak on the injury itself to patellar tendon. One of my close friends that I've played with at Western Kentucky is now at Texas Tech. He's he's torn his patellar tendon twice playing, and he was back within a couple months doing everything. And he's an offensive lineman, so there's still a lot of force being directed onto the knee. This is an injury that he can come back from. Yes, is it a little bit longer? Yes, to recover from. But at the end of the day, he will be back. So I think that's, I don't know. They made it sound like the injury was way worse. Yes, I guess he does miss a considerable amount of this season, but I don't think this alters his pitching at all. Even though it is his plant leg, I don't see it happening.
Sure. I mean, what do I know about the long-term outlook of what Edwin Diaz's pitching career looks like, I don't know. I have no idea. I only know what I've read from reporters and people who have, I guess, studied what this looks like in the long term for an MLB pitcher. Yeah, there's a lot of impact and stuff that goes on an offensive lineman's knees. Might it be a little different? I don't know. I'm only providing some sort of contrast to what you're bringing to the table, Tyler. You may be 100% correct, and I might sound like a poo-poo take clown, but
that's not the issue, right? It's
right.
just the issue isn't the gravity of the injury. The point is he's going to miss time. Both of you are agreeing that he'll miss MLB actual playing time. And for MLB fans, and I say that not baseball fans, because as the case with this KFC guy has illuminated, more of an MLB fan than a baseball fan. That's what matters is, oh no, this guy is missing time for our team. Oddly enough, the first thing that came to mind when I saw this, and I'm sure Ryan Sartori, you remember, Kerry Wood missed a decent amount of time because he hurt his chest hurt his chest and back slipping in the bathtub.
Yeah.
What, you're going to tell the guy like, oh, you can't take a shower or a bath anymore? Like sometimes injuries happen outside of the field of play where we watch those players. And in this case, it was on the field of play, but not the one that we're accustomed to. And so the idea of an external existing injury being some sort of mark against the game, and that's why players shouldn't do this. I think the World Baseball Classic is good for a number of reasons. One, it's a much more interesting competitive format than MLB, which is 6 months, 162 games before getting to the playoffs. This is more traditional bracket styled, pool play, single elimination, double elimination, whatever the different rounds and stuff, right? Like that's easier to consume. It also takes one of the coolest parts of sports, which is that it's a global language. You've got people all over the world who play baseball, and we're getting to see some superstar athletes that maybe we never paid much attention to because they were on some, 40 and 81 team most of the way through baseball, and we miss it. So you've got a really cool competition. You've got a cool set of players. Also, this is good tuning for the players. This is a preseason. Instead of missing the garbage spring training ball that they're playing in, the Grapefruit League, you've got great players going against great players on a massive stage. And of course, as you mentioned, it's super important because national pride is a big deal. It's the same reason that Messi plays for Argentina. He doesn't make more money playing for Argentina than some rich European club, but he does it for national pride. And that's a big thing, especially among baseball fans.
To tie more storylines in, I think there's so much weight here. There's so many people who listen to these interviews from the players who are in the World Baseball Classic. All of them are saying these are the loudest stadiums I've ever played in. Players who have played in Game 7s of World Series saying that these World Baseball Classic pool play games are louder than a World Series Game 7. If that is true, and there is that magnitude of baseball being played, there is nothing that you can tell me that says that these games don't matter. These games 100% matter. And even if they don't, and all that matters is that a player is taking pride in playing for their respective countries, that's all that matters because they're not playing for money. They're doing it out of pure free will because they want to play for their country. Something special is happening for the first time in 4 years, and they want to go play for their countries. And that's what matters, is that these people who happen to play baseball at the highest level imaginable wanted to play for Team USA, wanted to play for Team Puerto Rico, for Team Venezuela, for whomever. They wanted to do this thing. The fact that they got injured stinks. But Jack, to your point, you could slip in the fucking shower and put your back out like Kerry Wood. You could cut your finger on a fucking drone like Trevor Bauer. Like there are so many different ways to miss time in a baseball season. I feel terribly for Edwin Diaz. I feel terribly for Jose Altuve, who took a pitch off his thumb, has to have surgery on it, and is out indefinitely. Nobody has anything to say about Jose Altuve because of the whole trophy situation. But the fact of the matter is that's a person with like real motives and real aspirations in life. And if I was at that level, I would want to play for Team USA too if I was invited. Like that is all that matters. And to throw a tantrum on the internet and cry because an important player on your team got injured and now he's not going to be able to play for your team is so selfish and also like so representative of where the average sports fan's brain is. And the fact that we hold athletes in such high esteem, I've talked about on the podcast before, how I hate that we add this superhero god complex to athletes. At the end of the day, they're just people. Are they phenomenal at what they do? Are they the entertainment to our nights and weekends and summers and winters? Are they our entertainment 24/7? Yes. But at the end of the day, these people struggle with things. They have goals, they have aspirations and families. And like, to think that they, again, owe you anything is so stupid. It's so childish. And like, if you're going to be a person who covers sports on a daily basis and provides takes to people who are going to take your opinions and manifest them into their own, whether it's verbatim or by adding some sort of extra information to it or nothing at all, like myself, like for you to have that sort of privileged take, it's just, I think, irresponsible to be given the platform that you have, and then you perpetuate this idea that somehow they owe us anything, that somehow we should expect things from them. It's something that I'm so passionate about because we so rarely see players as just guys. They're just people.
Yeah.
I think we could talk about the toxicity of the Barstool culture as a whole.
Bingo.
Minus, I think I saw your tweet, minus like Big Cat and the PMT guys, right? Like, so like a lot, there's people at Barstool that don't offer the same toxicity, right? But there are like the heavy hitters that are always there. Like Frank the Tank is always on like the world is going to end tomorrow. Like everything is like that. Like, I don't know. Like you said, it takes away from the players actually being people too. And it carries over to other sports. It's not just baseball. And this is just the latest instant of it, right? Like, how many times have you seen them like go off on like Kevin Durant or, a football team or even like UFC? Like they've gone after UFC fighters for not fighting or just like the craziest things and forget that they're people too.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of interesting too, and it's one that I at some point will have to dig deep and explore more. This is going to sound horrible, but let it develop, I guess.
Sure.
I don't think it's wrong for sports fans to, what's the word I'm looking for? Commoditize athletes as it pertains to their sports team, right? It's if you can't also look past that and be empathetic towards the person behind that, right? Like, I do think it's totally reasonable for a Mets fan to be greatly disappointed in the situation, in the outcome, where they are now. I mean, I think if you look at the players as, and it's a cliched negative way to put it, if you look at them as just numbers or just objects or just stats or like a means to an end for a sports team, that isn't inherently wrong because that's how we have to analyze sports. It is, every sports team is a sum of its parts and the way they work together. Where you become wrong, and this is where that was the bad thing to say if you take it in isolation, but where you become wrong is when you miss the other stuff, when you miss the good deeds or the bad deeds committed by athletes off the field, when you miss the vitriol thrown at people for situations beyond their control or mistakes that they've made by just the common sports fan, right? And so I think it is one of those, it's justified to complain online and scream into the void and be like, only the Mets, or only my team, or of course this happens to me, or this guy's an idiot, how did it happen, right? But it's like you have to, that last one is where you draw the line. Like, everything you said is fair until you attack a player for getting hurt, right?
Yeah.
You have to be able to differentiate. Not all of those thoughts are bad to have or even to vocalize, but some of them are, and why is that the case? And that's where I think when you started out this segment going, I don't even know what question I'm supposed to be asking. The question is, why is what this KFC guy, I don't know what his name is, KFC, right?
Yeah.
Bizarre name. Why is what he said wrong? That's the question. and I think we've answered it effectively, but that's the takeaway is forget about the noise or the back and forth or the macro view. Why is the tweet that he said wrong? And it's a great number of reasons that hopefully most people were able to discover one or two for themselves.
Additional context to the situation, and this has been up since 12:02 a.m. on March 16th. So this is up now for 4 days. He tweets, I literally hope every single one of those WBC losers has a player on their MLP team injured by tomorrow. I hope there's 29 injured stars and you all have to defend your stupid, worthless, fake takes about a tournament that's fun for 5 seconds before it's completely forgotten. Asinine.
This is a guy who's named after like the 4th best fast food chicken place. Like that's who we're supposed to listen to?
Right. Realistically, I think it's his initials or something dumb like that. But like,
oh, that makes a lot more sense. I didn't even think of that.
I think his name's Kevin. But like, this is 8.7 million views.
Mm-hmm.
This is harmful rhetoric to like people who play sports. Professional people who play sports.
Sociology in general.
Yes.
Like,
I mean,
if I don't like you, I hope bad things happen to you is a deranged take in any context.
Right. Tyler, to come back to your point of what I had tweeted, it's verbatim is growing up is realizing that Barstool Sports fucking sucks. Minus maybe the PMT guys, right? I have a lot of respect for Big Cat and the trajectory that he's had in his career, the way that he works, stuff like that. I mean, and even that might be under review.
I was going to say, editor's note here, or just to throw in, because we've mentioned that a couple times, and it's a stance that I also believe, is if they would separate, if I've listed a couple times, pardon my take, if they would separate, it would be easier to support them. But the fact that they haven't separated, every year that passes where they continue to operate under this label, it is worth also scrutinizing them for operating under the label that we're otherwise criticizing. Sorry for the interlude. Go on.
No, I think your interlude is just because
I would love for them to go to ESPN or to go to I don't know, SB Nation if that still exists, or The Ringer or something.
Even
They're great entertainers, great sports minds.
Yes, even the asterisk that I add though to this thought is a faint one. It's like in very faint font, like you got a pen that's running out of ink. But like Barstool Sports, Barstool in general sucks. And they provide platforms to people like this who do more harm than good. And it won't be the last time that this happens. It'll continue to happen. Like growing up is like, okay, you're in high school. You're like, it would be awesome to work for Barstool Sports. And then you get to a more mature age and realize that there's more things that happen than just making crazy fucking takes about shit and realizing, hey, like there's deeper shit. There's levels to this that I never understood before that. And you see who has the power and who makes the decisions and who says the crazy fucking shit. And you're like, actually, that place looks like it sucks. And it's all for clicks and views. I mean, any website like that, any platform like that that's just designed for clicks and views sucks.
I mean, ultimately what Barstool was designed for, right? They went after the typical fan that's in college, right? They appeal to that. Saturdays are for the boys. All those different campaigns, like the Million Beers with Dana Beers. Like we could go on and on about this, but like end of the day, like they're a sports media company that's for college fraternity guys, right? Like it's not meant for all these avenues that they're a part of. And like you said, as you mature and like you have your own takes and like grow up as a fan, like you realize that it's not necessarily like good content to listen to. Like I went through a phase where I listened to PMT like all the time, and then I got like overwhelmed with that same thing where it's like, and again, like I like PMT. It's not that I don't. It's just like the same thing over and over. It's that toxic masculinity, and it's tough to keep up with.
Whether you like it or don't like it, like that's not like an indictment, right?
No.
And whether you like Barstool Sports or don't like Barstool Sports is not an indictment on you. I just think that like I really don't think it is, because there's still so many different avenues of media that you can consume. And again, like I said, if you're taking everything that you get on any given news outlet as the only truth, then that's a flaw in your system. But if you're adding other elements and saying like, I don't wholly agree with what they're saying, but it was still something that entertained me for a bit. Like, that's not an indictment on you. But if you're the person who I need an opinion on the World Baseball Classic or anything, I'm just for brevity's sake, that is your only thing, and you pay attention to only that, that might be an indictment on the way that you consume media and who you might be in a public space. I don't know. I'm getting too deep into this now. I would like to pivot to starting five. It's a hard pivot. Understood. We've talked on the show how I don't like to do the heavy topic to light topic, but that's what we're going to do. It's starting five today. Because of the awful, horrible takes from KFC, we are going to turn that negative into a positive. At least do something fun. We're going to draft bad takes. This doesn't have to be sports related. It can be anything. I think number one overall right now in terms of like where we're at in the draft process would be KFC's. I hope everybody has a player that gets injured from the World Baseball Classic. That is a wild fucking thing to say. We'll pull that one off the board. Tyler, walk us. Go ahead.
Let's be clear to clarify, because I know I was confused when it's like we're drafting bad takes. Explain what our job is as drafters.
A good draft pick would be a bad take, and it doesn't have to be objectively bad. It could just be bad to you, right? So, like, if you were to say like daylight savings time sucks, you would draft that saying that is a bad thing. I believe the opposite.
Okay,
I would say. If you drafted daylight saving time sucks, you believe daylight savings time is good. You are drafting something that you think is stupid, a take or an opinion that you think is dumb. So Tyler, walk us through what the voting looked like.
Yeah. So again, we had some overwhelming results. Our Twitter poll definitely told us more than our Instagram poll. Our Instagram poll was pretty equal throughout all three candidates. I think Jack had a little less than me and Ryan, but me and Ryan, I think, finished tied. But moving on to the Twitter poll, Ryan did run away with it with over half of the votes. So Ryan won. So therefore, Ryan got to choose the topic this week. If we followed you 2 days ago, follow us back. Have an input in these polls, not just for Ryan's sake, but to give us more data, to give us more diverse results. And I mean, just be truthful. You don't have to pick, if you're one of my friends, you don't have to pick me. You don't have to pick Ryan if you're Ryan's friend. Or if you're Jack's friend, you don't have to pick Jack. You can pick any one of the options.
Well, let's take a look at this. Just at a glance, on a whim, if you guys were to assume or to specifically share the poll with your friends, do you think they would inherently just be like, I'll vote for you, whether they look at the list or not? Like, I'll vote for my friend. I'm like, the more I share with my people, the more votes you guys are probably going to get. So I would be hesitant with my own circles.
At the end of the day, I follow more people just because I wanted more data, more diverse.
Oh, here comes Mr. 1500 in the house. But you get your 1500 followers?
I did finally hit the 4-figure threshold the other day on Instagram. I am officially a 1,000 follower guy on Instagram, which I am probably the least active on of all my social media.
Unbelievable.
Good for me. Okay, here we go. Again, we're gonna do what is it? Is it Jack 2?
Jack is number 2 because overall Jack did have more votes than me, thanks to the Twitter poll. So Jack will be drafting second. I will take the end of the snake.
All right. Again, we're drafting bad takes. If we draft the take, we think the opposite.
Right.
All right. My number one pick for bad takes draft is, in quotations, it's not a pyramid scheme. It's an MLM.
Okay. Is that a take? I guess it's a take. It's not a pyramid scheme. It's a justification is what it is, right? You can buy something nice.
It's an opinion.
Yeah,
it's an opinion. Bad takes, bad opinions. It's an opinion. An MLM is 1,000% a pyramid scheme. But if that's your opinion, it's a bad one, but I don't agree with it. So that's number one on the board for me, is pyramid scheme / MLM is how I have it written down. So Jack, now we go to you for your first pick of the draft.
First pick for me. Cartoons are for kids. animated TV shows are for kids. I think people do themselves a disservice by writing off. I mean, obviously there are cartoons that are designed for kids, but I think we have a lot of smart and creative people in the world who have channeled their efforts to make just quality television. Even if you look at adult animation, you can go beyond that towards more young adult teen type stuff, foreign animations, things like that. So I think it's silly when people are like, "Oh no, I don't watch cartoons; they're for kids."
I like it. That's a great first pick. I mean, you look at shows like Rick and Morty, cartoon, great show.
Kid show.
Well, not a kid show actually at all, but there are tons of animated shows out there that like I would still go back and watch. Fuck, I would go back and watch the Pokemon, like the original like
It's good.
Pokemon. It's
I
great.
am. Did go back and start watching it not so long ago, and I'm like, wow, this is. I think I appreciate it more now than I did when I was a kid.
I also would like to add to the cartoons not for kids or cartoons are for kids. I don't think Pokemon is uniquely just for kids either. I think if you like it, you should play it.
Sure, have fun, live your life.
Fuck
I
yeah,
love
Tyler,
Pokemon.
first pick and the snake.
My first pick is chicken nuggets are just for kids.
Oh,
Those
another
people-
kid one.
Yeah, the people who go to restaurants and only order chicken tenders, I don't think that's wrong. I think you just know what you like, and I don't think it's inappropriate at all. I think chicken tenders and chicken nuggets are a very good meal and would satisfy me at any time as a big food fan.
Related. Are you guys boneless or bone in on wings?
Bone in.
This
No
is-
I am
hesitation.
hard-lined boneless person, so I love what you're saying here, Tyler.
You love chicken nuggets, my guy.
I can eat both. I don't have an opinion. If whatever's put in front of me, I will eat.
I mean, I guess that's.
I'm an offensive lineman.
I will make this distinction. If boneless wings are on special, I will get the chicken nuggets. Because boneless wings are, I saw this tweeted, I have to share it. They are chicken nuggets with better marketing.
That's essentially. I would agree.
More or less.
It doesn't make me want to eat them less or more than regular chicken wings, though.
Dude, I love chomping down on a bone.
You don't chomp down on the bone.
Yeah, because mine are boneless. All right, Tyler, go for
duh.
number 2.
Okay, my number 2 is the first one that I thought of, and it's an actual sports take. It is Max Kellerman's "Give Me Iguodala" sports take over Steph Curry. Fate of the planet on the line. He said, "Give me Iguodala to shoot the shot that saves the world instead of Steph Curry."
Yeah, I want to find what's the exact. I want to make sure that we're citing him appropriately here. I want
This is-
Iguodala. That's the line that he yells.
Wait, so you would want Iguodala at the line?
No, I'm against
No.
this.
Oh wait,
no,
no.
that's a bad
I
take.
got it.
Oh my
I'm
God.
sorry.
Even-
I'm sorry.
Jeez,
It's
guys.
takeception. It's takeception here.
In my research, even Iguodala, when asked by Max Kellerman, said, "No, you're stupid for picking me. Steph should shoot the ball." So I thought that was hilarious, and
I dig it.
I had to
All right.
get at least one sports one in.
I'll follow suit then. I'm on for my 2.2 here. You followed my kids thing. I'll follow your sports. I'm gonna say bad take. Fantasy sports and betting ruins the regular sports experience. I think there are a lot of people out there who avoid fantasy football, fantasy basketball, betting on sports because they think that people who play those things don't have the same level of appreciation for the craft itself. And I have found in my personal experience that those are ways to open yourself to new insights about the game. You find more stats, numbers, trends. You watch the game differently, but that doesn't mean you don't appreciate it. And so, yeah, fantasy sports and betting ruins the regular sports experience. Bad take.
I'll go with, I think, probably a very controversial pick here, especially for most Americans, with my second pick with the 203. I'm going to go with free speech is for everyone.
Oh, you think
I
that's
think-
a bad take?
I think some people should shut the fuck up. Or be forced to shut the fuck up.
Oh,
And like-
that's
Like
even wilder. Oh
That's-
my God, suppression by the state is what you're asking
I
for.
am only joking. I say this in a very joking context. But even for reasons that we've discussed on the podcast, I think that some people should just shut the fuck up.
Wow.
Free speech is maybe not for everybody. But again, don't take this seriously. It is a fantasy world draft that has no implication or no meaning on what we actually believe. This is a joke.
I want people to listen and support us and stuff, but I do also need to know, social media guys, are we able to dox the voters? Like, can I identify
Yes.
people who vote for Ryan in these polls as
Yes.
like literal supporters of state silencing of people? Like,
On
this
Instagram.
is causing problems. Be careful when you vote, guys.
Yes, only on Instagram. I tried to see who voted on Twitter, and it unfortunately does not let you see.
Oh, I'm definitely voting on Twitter then.
All
right, you got another one.
I've got the snake at 301. And so I'll go with one from the world of sports. The bad take that I'm drafting is Roger Goodell is a bad commissioner.
Ooh,
I like
some
that.
intrigue. Okay, I'll hear you out here.
I just think that in his time as commissioner, and it's especially timely that this comes on the day that he's been extended for a fourth time as commissioner of the NFL, that does the NFL have some issues? Yes. Has the NFL seen tremendous growth under his watch? Yes. I think that the watching experience for fans has gotten better. I think that he's implemented betting, which has been awesome for fans and enhancing the experience of watching the games as well. He's made it a much more accessible thing for fans. I think that Roger Goodell has done a tremendous job. There's just been times where the NFL has been very frustrating, and he's the one who takes the brunt of it. But I think that from where we were before Goodell and where we are now, this is a much, much different NFL, and one that I would think many people agree is very much better than what we had in the early 2000s. I just think he's done a good job. Yes, there exist issues that still need to be solved in terms of like when we have player issues such as the Ray Rices and things that happen. Like those are things that still need to be weeded out. But in terms of like commissioner and decisions made and the translation from field and the translation to fan consumption, he has done a tremendous job. Boo him at the draft if you want in April, but the guy I think does a great job of bringing football to people.
Yeah, no, that's got to be one of the more impossible jobs to have too, right? Like I don't know that we'll ever have a guy that just commissions everything the right way, right? That's a tough one. All right, let's see. What do we got? Is this is the third one?
This is the third round, and one thing that I'll add to just being a commissioner, people don't necessarily realize he is the talking head for all 32 NFL teams. Like he is in charge of talking with all of the owners and bringing a collective idea to the public, and then also trying to keep everybody at home happy and watching it to the utmost degree of the sentence. You cannot keep anybody happy in that role. It is an extremely difficult task. We are on to 302. Jack, this is your pick.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go with I'm torn between two, and they're both kind of weather related. I'm gonna go with being a winter person in the Midwest. People you ask like what their favorite season is, they say winter. I think that's a ridiculously horrible take to have. The winters are bearable. Like it's not enough that I need to get out of Illinois as quickly as I can. But the reasons that people like winter, mostly outside of the holidays, are activities that they can do in the snow, which you'd much rather do in places other than like Illinois or Indiana. Like go to Colorado, go to Utah, go do your winter stuff over
Canada.
there. If there are 4 seasons in the year, you live in the Midwest and you're like, my favorite is winter. That's a clown take.
See, I think the better take is that Chicago is a good winter city for those that live in the Chicagoland area. I think there's a lot to do in the Chicagoland area. Not that it's like the overall experience is better.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a charm to it. That charm, I think, wears pretty quickly. I don't think we need a full 3 months, but that's a symptom sort of what I'm saying.
Well, moving away from weather, My next one is tattoos are unprofessional in the workplace. I think that someone who is able to make a decision on a piece of art that goes on their body can be trusted. I don't think that's a sign that they're a bad employee or troublesome. I think that it might actually be a good thing. And it's also self-expression. You want employees that are self-expressive now versus back. I mean, I guess decades ago, it was more like come in, do your work and leave. Like now you want more creative people in the workplace. I think people with tattoos are typically a little more creative than others. So that's my third pick. Bringing it back on the snake, though, going to music, Kanye's take that Sway does not have the answers.
Does Sway actually have the answers?
Kanye actually admitted earlier in 2022 that Sway indeed had the answers.
Wow, Kanye making a reemergence on a podcast with
I mean, you're talking about First Amendment right suppression. And I'm talking about a Kanye West interview about music. So, but Sway did indeed have the answers. Kanye admitted it. So that is my sneaky value pick, I think.
Tell him, Jack. Tell him, Jack. Tell him, Jack.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold off for a second.
Tell him, Jack.
No.
Tell
All right,
him who you are.
I've got to go. I wanted to go with some controversial things that I had, but in the effort of like for it to be a good pick, it should be something that people probably would agree with me on. But this will be my probably most controversial. I'm gonna say if you claim that Michael Jordan is the undisputed greatest of all time, that is a bad take. I think that this more specifically goes towards the maybe being in the Chicago market, I'm more exposed to it. But the people who don't seem to find a path for LeBron or any other player to pass up Michael Jordan, I think outs themselves as people who are just living in the past. It's possible that he's the greatest of all time, but to say that the conversation doesn't exist, which unfortunately many people do, I think is a ridiculous thing to say. I think that LeBron's got a case. I am sure we'll have people in the future who have a case. At some point, the nostalgia will wear off. Those dinosaurs will die in time, and we'll have enough free-thinking minds on the planet going, oh, wait a second, this is actually kind of crazy. There were better basketball players after all. So it might rile people up, but that I got to throw that in there because it's a firmly held belief of mine.
And it's not necessarily that Michael Jordan is the GOAT is the bad take. It's like if he's the GOAT and you see no other way that anybody could ever pass him. Right. Is the bad take. Right. And again, we are drafting.
Have the conversation of it probably is him or it could be him, but it's like it's MJ. End of story. Leave, please.
Right. Again, we are drafting bad takes where what we draft is the opposite of what we believe. We are drafting the bad take. And my next one, my fourth pick, is that you should post pictures or videos of your infant child, your newborn child. Keep them to yourself.
Interesting.
Your infant could grow up to be a beautiful individual, man or woman, could grow up to be People Magazine's sexiest person of the year. But as an infant, everybody looks like a shriveled, ugly raisin.
Wow.
That's not what I was expecting.
Wow.
I thought this was going to be like a privacy, like a don't post pictures of your kids on the internet. The internet's a dangerous place. This was I think babies are ugly.
Infants are ugly. Once the babies come out and they start to gain their fat and whatever, and their baby fat, whatever, and you want to post pictures of them, then fine. Your infant child
is a raisin.
It's a raisin and shouldn't be posted. But there's also the element of like privacy and like, would you want to make your social media debut as a shriveled, ugly raisin?
Maybe. I don't know.
Probably not.
Ryan Sartori hates the First Amendment and hates your shriveled, ugly baby.
Hates your babies. This would be the worst campaign for politician.
Yeah. I mean, if he wins this week, I'm gonna lose it because there's no way.
Also, hate pyramid schemes. That's another thing that politicians might go for.
What did I do?
I said you also hate pyramid schemes, which if you were running for office might lose you some people. All right, you got one more.
All of my people selling Norwex towels would be like, what? Or the
Cutco
door-to-door
knives.
knife salesman. Yeah,
Cutco knives.
Geez, what do I want to do here? I've got some real bangers left on the board.
We'll hear him eventually. Pick one.
I think that this is a hot take on my end, but something that I firmly believe in.
Let's hear it.
Again, what we draft, we believe the opposite. Will Ferrell movies are funny.
You don't think a single one is funny?
Will Ferrell has one of my favorite movies ever, and one that I can quote nonstop. Step Brothers.
Talladega Nights. Oh,
Step Brothers hold in high esteem, right? Everything else is it's just it's all right.
There was a Will Ferrell renaissance where he couldn't miss with a movie. Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, Anchorman. Like,
okay, I'll throw Anchorman up there too. Anchorman, Step Brothers are the only two that I can hold on to. The rest of them are like I could do without.
Tyler, you did not like that pick.
I am a fan of Will Ferrell. I agree that like not all of his movies are funny. Like,
Sure.
I would say his newer stuff isn't nearly as funny as Anchorman, Talladega Nights, and Step Brothers. I think that's like the holy trinity of like comedy movies for me. It's like they're just so stupid funny. But I do agree that like they're not all great. Like,
Light him on fire. All right.
I wanted that to get a little angry, but the two of you gave each other dirty looks. Dirty looks don't make for a good audio experience, but whatever. If we're keeping it calm, we're keeping it calm. That's fine. I didn't mind it. I thought it was a fine opinion to have.
what about it? What about Will Ferrell makes you not
Here
like
we
him?
go.
Like,
Here
I
we
think
go.
I
just
Will
want to dive
Ferrell-
deeper into
Hold
this.
on. I think Will Ferrell has some extremely quotable movies, but that doesn't make them funny. I just feel like a lot of times I end up watching the same character over and over and over,
Oh,
which is like sometimes the knock that I have on even Adam Sandler movies, especially now, is like I feel like I'm watching the same guy over and over and over. I think, maybe that's my issue with Will Ferrell is like I know what I'm going to see before I go see it.
let me peel back the curtain for the listeners. There was a pre-show discussion that now, hearing what I'm hearing from Ryan Sartori, I'm shocked by. Ryan Sartori, do you like the show I Think You Should Leave? Where it is one guy who
It's
plays the
way
same character that
different.
just yells
No.
everything
No,
he
it's
does.
not.
It's
Because
loud.
it's a fucking
No.
sketch show.
Sure, every character he does in that show is the same. It's just a loud guy who does some random thing that you wouldn't see in the real world, and then does it for like 8 minutes straight. Everything is the same. So
It's situational comedy.
I just think
That's
if
it.
you're saying Will Ferrell's all the same, it's
Look, no, Tyler just added to my debate is that it's situational comedy, it's sketch comedy, it's in completely different situations all the time. I know when I go, if I were to pay fucking money to go to a Will Ferrell movie, I know exactly what I'm going to see before the thing even starts rolling.
It's the same thing for me. And I don't understand the point of it's quotable. So, but I don't think it's funny. You're quoting it because the quotes are funny. You wouldn't say the quotes if you didn't think it was funny.
I'm gonna keep
Not
hitting this straight
necessarily.
here. I think you should leave crazy memeable content. That's why people like it, because you see a picture online and you're like, oh, I saw that.
I
moment,
didn't
like,
do
8
fucking
times in a week."
shit.
Yeah,
I
right?
didn't
I'm
do
done.
Wait, which character is that? Is that the loud protagonist one? I don't remember. I'm just saying, I'm on Tyler's side here. I think that I would like to expose what I believe to be hypocrisy in the. I think that
I don't want to be
your
here
stance on
anymore.
Will Ferrell.
The chin kills.
I don't want to be here anymore.
Sure, you could say you're in a glass case of emotions right now.
I want to take this thing off.
Now we're mixing quotes.
Like, I don't want to be around anymore.
All right, I like the heat that came with that. So that was maybe personal between the two of you for differing stances.
Shut up, Dale, you fucking skunk.
Then he doubles down on it, dude. It's like, shut up, you fucking skunk. Okay, we gotta move on because I'm gonna lose it. I could quote this all day. my God.
Anyway, go ahead, Jack. Your last
Disappointing to
pick.
see. I actually even more firmly believe this now than I did when I wrote it down. The bad take that I have is that Ryan Sartori has had the best draft even once. I know we've only done 2 of them, but if this is the first time you're listening or voting in the poll, go and look at our old ones, and you tell me that in either of those, the winner of the poll, Ryan Sartori, actually had the best draft of the 3. And I think we're about to get a three-peat of that occurrence, which should make this pick even stronger. That there's no way that he has had the best draft, inclusive of this one, even a single time. Bad take to have. Voters, thank you for voting, but you've been bad at your job.
So now you're advocating for people to not
Don't
vote?
try to spin this. You
Oh,
said
no, I said
babies
thank you
are
for
ugly.
voting. I said thank you for voting. They're just bad at it.
And then said don't. You said don't vote.
No, I did not say don't vote.
You said stop the count.
I just want them to be
You've
better
heard.
is all.
Listen, you've heard of Hoodie Mellow before. I'm Hoodie Ryan right now. I'm in my bag. as the
You're
kids
old
say.
fashioned, Ryan. That's what you are.
Those wore off about 30 minutes ago, brother. Now I'm just riding on pure emotion.
Was it old fashioned? Was that the drink you had, or is that what that one
Yeah.
person who couldn't tell your age called you?
And this has slowly become the roast of Ryan Sartori.
Goodbye forever. I want you to know he turned his camera off because he is
Dying
hysterically
laughing. He's
cackling.
just-
Yeah,
he's
he doesn't want
dying.
anybody to see how hard he's laughing.
That was really good. That was really
Tyler,
good.
you're
That
on
was
the clock.
quick, very quick-witted.
Oh, Tyler, go ahead, please.
I'm gonna go from experience, and I'm gonna stay away from. I want to do some honorable mentions after.
Oh, we got plenty.
But I'm gonna say this. This is it's a little different. I'm gonna say that vaping is better for you than smoking. I do not agree with this.
All right, Mr. Fogg.
I think it's more addictive and it consumes you more so than cigarettes. I mean, cigarettes are more cancer causing, but I think the overall issue of addiction, I think it attributes more to addiction overall than cigarettes do.
Jesus Christ, fucking
I
dragging us
know.
down here for the last.
I
what
mean,
the
Jesus
fuck?
Christ. I'm trying to be different. I don't have an answer for you winning the polls, Ryan. So I'm trying everything. I could have gave another sports take. Shit, on my list, it was my take on Jeff Saturday. If I said that for a 15th time, no one's going to vote for me.
Wait,
That's
so your
gonna-
Hail Mary, the I don't know how to beat this guy, what can I do, is to tell people that cigarettes aren't as bad as they think?
Well, when you put it that way. Just, you know what? kick
I
me
don't
out.
know who you followed today. I can't wait to see who we're following. And it's like the like camel mask.
Hello.
And note to the editor, cut this part out.
Following Marlboro Man.
I'm the editor. I'm not cutting it.
Note to the editor, please cut this out.
No. I was twisting his words. I understand what you're saying. I think that there's, I don't know that we have like all of the science yet, but there definitely certainly could be a case where like depressiveness, addictiveness, stuff like that could definitely be coming from vapes. So there's some boldness to it, but I had to rag on you a little
Holy
bit there.
shit.
My issues with these is that they're all like, I take them so seriously. So I have a list of sports takes, and then I hear you guys give non-sports takes, and I'm like panicking. So I'm thinking on the spot.
I
like,
say
what
in the
should I
group
do?
chat every time.
Well,
And
I
I'm
assume
leaving it
sports ones.
open for interpretation. You could
I
have said
am-
something along the lines of, when people dress their car up like fucking reindeer, I think it's stupid.
Well, that's
Is
not
that on
fair
your
to the
list?
people who dress their cars up like reindeer. They're adorable.
That's stupid. And then the fucking stupid Rudolph nose ends up on the front of their car until March. It's like, what is this commentary on? It's nothing. It means nothing. It tells me that you're fucking lazy. Anyway.
Did you just call me lazy or the people with Rudolph on their nose? Because
The people, specifically the people with Rudolph noses on the front of their cars until the month of March. Now, honorable mentions. Fire away, gents.
Tyler, you want to lead? You want me to lead?
And you're fucking
I'll
lazy too,
lead.
Tyler.
Okay, you go. You.
I'm kidding.
All right, you make your own graphic then.
Whoa,
For the
whoa, whoa,
polls.
whoa.
Oh, well, yeah.
Wait,
A lot of
listen, I
my
added the fucking podcast.
I could draw a picture. You guys want me to draw a picture?
I want you to draw the picture and post it on all social media platforms for the podcast. It doesn't have to do with
take a week off.
anything. It doesn't have to do with anything at all. I just want you to post a picture.
Some of the takes that I had honorable mentions, they're all sports takes. Johnny Manziel is the hero Cleveland dreamed of. Skip Bayless said that. Another Skip Bayless one. Matt Moore should remain the starter of the Kansas City Chiefs in 2019 after Patrick Mahomes got injured. And Skip Bayless comments on continuing the game after the DeMar Hamlin injury earlier this year.
Yeah.
Very tough for Skip. And then this is just more of a general run. A lot of sports outlets had Jalen Hurts not being a suitable quarterback in the NFL, and he went to the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, those are all fine. I think the Mahomes one specifically was my favorite of the group. I could see throwing that in the mix.
Yeah.
I think your picks were fine, but I feel like you could have certainly used these if you wanted to. So, right or wrong, take ownership of your actions, please, Tyler.
I'm terrible. I'm lazy, and
And you advocate for people smoking cigarettes.
I'm out of here. I'm done.
I don't want to be here anymore. He turns his camera up. My honorable mentions: ketchup doesn't belong on a hot dog. I think it's a bad take. Because yes, the fuck it does. What else does it end up on if not
everything?
A hot dog. Yeah, right. Especially for Patrick Mahomes, who gets his second mention today.
Nice.
With St. Patrick's Day passing, I have written down corned beef is bad because I think corned beef is an elite meat.
Oh, I gotcha. I read that the wrong way at first.
Yeah, no. Corned beef is creme de la creme in this household. I also didn't draft this, but believe it very firmly and with my chest. This is a bad take. iPhone is better than Android.
Oh, you're saying Android is better than iPhone?
Yes. I think any iPhone loyalty is all due to brainwashing.
What makes your Android better?
I have features on my phone right now that's 2 years old that you won't have for another 3.
Okay, name them. Name them.
Yeah, I want to know.
I can't name them because there's fucking things. Stop. All I know is that every time a new iPhone comes out, they tout this new feature on their phone that I've had already for years. It happens every time. Like, okay, I have that. The only thing that they have that keeps people hook, line, and sinker, it's 2 things. It's fucking stupid colored messages, which is racist. And the second thing is FaceTime.
Well, I will say the messages one, people like to diminish that, but the ease with which you can have a pleasant multi-layered conversation in an iMessage group versus a diversified phone type group is certainly a positive.
That is
I know why. It's like
so it's all brainwashing.
You're brainwashing us. You said, I know my phone's better because I have things before you guys don't. And we said,
sure.
Name a thing.
Sure.
I just want to know. I want to know what I'm getting 3 years.
Yeah.
You're just being brainwashed to believe that your phone's high tech.
Okay. Fucking phone to phone sharing. Before there was AirDrop, you could tap your fucking phones together. This was back in 2012. You could tap your Samsungs together and share songs and shit. Fucking MP3 files and pictures and shit. That was almost the same thing.
Yeah, that's good. I not necessarily disagreeing with you. I just like expose your argument, right? Like that's sick. That's a cool feature.
I did.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Do you have any other examples?
That was enough for me, but
plenty.
I'm not sold because that's 2012.
Also on the list, I have Friends is an all-time great show. I believe the opposite. I think that it's fucking garbage TV. And I also think that swimming is a good time is a bad take because swimming sucks.
It's kind of a fun one.
Anyway, Jack, your honorable mentions. Oh,
that segues well into- oh, go
can
ahead,
I
go
bring
ahead.
in? Can I bring in one more, which is from just the other day? Adam Thielen, new signee to the Carolina Panthers, said in the media that he firmly believes the Panthers are going to win a Super Bowl. Gave no timetable. I assume he means this year.
Ever.
Bad take.
I think you'll agree with one of mine because of your swimming one. I had the beach as a fun place to go. I don't find much appeal in like, oh, let's do something. Let's go to the beach, right? Like, okay, if we're gonna do something there, fine, but I'm not just gonna go sit in sand and then dip my toes in the water for a few minutes.
Does depend where I'm at. If I'm like at a resort or something, somewhere that I've been to a resort before, I will hang out on the beach because they usually have cabanas where I don't have to nestle myself into the sand. Regular, degular, just beach, no shot.
Right.
There's too many crevices for sand to end up.
What else do I have? Kind of with Tyler's chicken nuggets are for kids. I said fine dining is better. I don't care for the expensive food, the ambiance. Like, you know what? There's enough different foods I like that aren't super expensive that I don't need to pay that much more for the like extra experience and the service and the fancy decor and like whatever. Like if your food's good, make it accessible. What else do I have here? I have superhero movies are losing their touch. I think people are waning on the Marvel and the DC movies of the world, but I actually think they're sure, maybe some of the better ones were early on, but I think they're by and large fine. They're good. They're fun. If you like fun movies, go watch a fun movie. And finally, this is without a doubt my most scorching opinion, and I would have gotten 0 votes if I drafted it. But dogs are bad. And so all things that fall under the umbrella of too many public spaces for dogs, too many people who don't identify how rowdy or dangerous their dogs actually are because they love them, dogs that do human-like things or are treated like humans, dogs that, I mean, the list could go on. But so I literally on my list just wrote the word dogs. Bad take.
Ice cold takes. All right. That's the starting 5. We will throw it up to a vote. Can I three-peat? I don't know. I hope so. We'll find out. Wrap the show up with Hang a Banner. Tyler Witt, go.
My banner this week is for indie horror movies / short films. I recently got into it on YouTube, fell down a rabbit hole, and there's a lot of great creators out there that are doing some interesting things with the horror genre. Just to be different, and with a limited amount of time. I just think that, I mean, the creativity is so vast, and I highly recommend that you too take some time to go on YouTube and just look up horror short films and just watch through a lot of them. And, you know, there's some gems in there. I really liked.
It's a nice pick.
Let's
Unfortunately
Scream.
Oh my gosh. Indie YouTube horror. Scream.
Realistically, I'm trying to buy myself some time to find the story on the person that I'm trying to hang a banner for.
I got you. Well, first of all, I'm going to say, Tyler, I do like your banner, but I'm not one with a stomach for horror, so I unfortunately probably won't personally follow. But it's because of how vastly creative horror can be that I'm extra terrified to try new types of horror. I've got a very, very brief banner. It was a nice snack that I've been treating myself to in the last couple weeks after having not had it in years. Celery and peanut butter.
Nice.
Just a few times this week just made me so happy to whip out a carton of peanut butter, take a spoonful, dip some celery, and eat it. You get some veggies, you get some protein, decent flavor, very easy to make. So there you go, planting my flag. Celeries and peanut butter. Throw some raisins on if you want the ants on a log special. But not required. Not required. Celery's peanut butter fine on its own. There. That's all the time I could buy.
Fucking celery and peanut butter.
Okay. When you're like, oh, I got snacks, I was like, oh, dude, if Tyler,
we're not drafting anymore.
Ends up here, then I'll be so proud of Ryan.
Tyler says, great pick. We're not drafting it.
Your graphic is going to be so small. It's going to be so funny. It's going to be the full screen of mine and Jack's, and then yours is going to be like this big with a black background.
This election is rigged. My banner goes to Jordan Sarnoff, a name that not many people are going to know, but this is a junior at a Fairleigh Dickinson University who, during the 2 games that FDU had in March Madness, operated as their full-time sports information director because the school does not have one. That is a gigantic undertaking for anybody, but especially for a student with a full-time schedule. Hats off to Jordan. I know how much goes into being an SID. I've worked closely with sports information directors as my time as a broadcaster. I don't know how a student could ever do it, especially for something as big as March Madness, and probably what will be the biggest moment athletically in that school's history. So hats off and hang a banner for Jordan Sarnoff from FDU. That's what we got. That's the show. We're almost at 2 hours because there was so much contention during starting 5, but I dig it. I love it. And Tyler, if my fucking graphic is any smaller than yours,
it's going to be small. Good luck seeing it.
Good luck seeing it.
You better have listened.
Maybe that's a feature iPhones will get at some point. Maybe we'll get the ability to zoom in on pictures. Then I might have a greater appreciation for Apple.
Android had that for years.
We're not all these ritzy Android Samsung types that can see things.
Next he's going to say my iPhone doesn't fold shut like an old flip phone. That's
all right. Well, that's episode 26 of the Hangin Banners podcast. We had a ton of fun hanging with you, and we'll be back next week for episode 27. By the way, forgot to mention at the top of the show, we're 26 now. We have to get off of our parents' insurance as a podcast.
Did you say socials? I feel like now that we're soliciting votes on things, socials.
Yeah, well, the socials are always scrolling at the bottom of the screen, which is something that I love. But if you need verbal direction, go to Twitter or Instagram and follow at Hangin Banners, HANGIN Banners, Hangin Banners, and make sure you vote. And make sure, if you have an Android, you zoom in because those stupid Apple users don't quite have it yet. All right, back next week for episode 27. Thanks for hanging. Until then, peace.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for that look into sports, Brian. Yeah. And when we come back, we'll have one final look at weather. Stay tuned.